do too.
Okay, so today is the second day of Tevis, the 2nd of January. And now we're going to have to see, so what's with this Chesed and Gvura that came out of, that suddenly become another two brains, as it were, in Za, in the small continents, in Zair and Pin. So let's see, where are we? ופירוש חסד וגבורה אלו. So, you'll see it in the English here also. פירוש חסד וגבורה אלו, הגם כי כבר יש בזה וו קצוות ומכללם חסד וגבורה. So he says, even though Za, of course, it's the emotional realm, so of course it has the 6 extremities, which are Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Chagat, Nehi, the 6 extremities. אלא שהן בחינת מידות העצמיים כנ"ל. But they are its essential attributes. And here we're talking about something else. בעניין הבחינה שנית מגיל הבחינות שבמידות. As we explained earlier, much earlier, remember when we were talking about the Ramak, we said that the 10 Sfirot divide into Chabad, Chagat, Nehi. So the Chagat and Nehi, they're the emotional realm. So they were the 2nd and 3rd aspects of every midah, of every attribute, in the inter-inclusion of them. Right? So it's very simple. There's nothing complex here. The Chesed v'Gvura elu, but these ones are called mochin, hem sichliim, b'bchina rishona, and they're connected to the Chabad. There's something entirely different. So the Chesed v'Gvura here, even though they're called Chesed and Gvura, they're called loving kindness and might. And loving kindness and might, I would expect it to be something emotional. Here it says, no, this is the intellectual realm still. This is something else. So what is this? So he says, V'yesh gamken beza mochin dekatnut u'mochin degadlut. And Za also has a state of what he calls constricted consciousness and expanded consciousness, or small-mindedness and great-mindedness. Haynu al derech ha'anal be'inyan moach shalit al lev. And they relate to what we call, again, this innate property of the mind controls the heart. So what are we saying here? He says that there are 2 states in which even Za, again, if we don't understand what Za is, it's hard to contemplate this. But the simple way to understand this is that there's a child who's maturing now, and he has an innate ability to control his heart with his mind, but not all the time. Why not all the time? Because Amalek is trying to chop off his head, meaning to create this disconnect. Or there's another option. We said that there's a spirit of folly. The spirit of folly is not like Amalek because there's no dot there. There's nothing really going on. It's not coming. It's as if the mind is clouded. It's foggy. You don't understand anything. You're not thinking about God even. So there, it's like a state in which there's no consciousness of God. It is very important to understand. What do you mean by consciousness of God in the world? So I've said this many times, but we live in a very strange world. This world, as it were, the Torah never talked about. The Torah was given at the time when not the patriarchs, but the Torah was given at the time when Hashem revealed Himself, when it was clear that God was running the world. How did you see it? You saw it in the 10 plagues in Egypt. You saw it in the giving of the Torah on Mount Sinai. You saw it the crossing of the Red Sea. There were many, many things that uprooted the other picture of the world, which is that nature is running the world. It's like today it's so strong that nature is running the world that Reb Nachman, for instance, says there's no reward and punishment. Yeah, he says he's not the only one. Ishbitz also says no. Hashem doesn't judge you. Why does He not judge you? Because what am I going to judge you on?
Because we don't have.
Because He can't see. There's no clear indication that you should be following God. There's no clear indication. It's all out of goodwill.
Yeah.
The person understands this is what he wants. He's a volunteer. Okay, you're a volunteer. Very nice. I want you to volunteer. But it's not the regular intensity of reality where it was clear that there's a God to fear.
Except if one is on a higher level, then one
right. So higher level means that you have that. And how do you gain this da'at? Through learning. That's what the Rambam says, right? That you learn and you learn and you learn until eventually you have consciousness of God. But so one might ask, to tell me, how is it possible that the key, says Rav Nachman, is fear of God? Do people have fear of God? When do people have suddenly fear of God? When something really goes wrong. But day to day, they don't have fear of God. So it's a big question. Do the Muslims have fear of God and the Jews and the Christians don't? Because in the Muslims it seems that they have fear of God. So how is this? So the answer is, I think, quite simple. That when you're uneducated, there's more fear of God. Why? Because there's no alternative theory. There's no alternative picture of reality.
Medieval people.
Right, had fear of God. Because that was the explanation of the world back then.
That's right.
But the more you move to a scientific picture of the world, and the more you think that nature runs the world, right, and you exorcised God out of it, as it were, so then the only time you begin to feel fear of God is when things go wrong. And then suddenly you're stricken with fear again, because you don't know what to do, because nature seems to be malfunctioning. So what do I do now that nature is malfunctioning? I need a different theory. So my theory now is God. All that that's like human created reality. It's you see it this way or you see it that way. But so when a child is growing up, I can't instill fear of God in him because Hashem is enjoying himself right now. So what do I need to instill him? And I need to develop his mind in such a way that he understands that he wants to volunteer for this, that this is a higher way of living, that this is a better way of living. To be conscious of God, it's a better it's another evolutionary rung that you're going up. That you don't have to do it because you're afraid. You have to do it because you understand it. So that's
the child like the Muslim.
Right. When he begins, he's like a Muslim.
So he has fear of God in a natural way.
No, but there isn't really very much, because today, Baruch Hashem, usually early years of life are good. If it was like in a Muslim country where they're terrible, maybe, I don't know, let's say on average or worse. So so he'll be like a Muslim and he'll have fear of God. Even then, I'm not sure that they have so much fear of God. The thing is, they don't have a competing theory.
It's very external.
Again, it's very external. This is all very, very external.
They weren't victim to the scientific realm.
Right. They don't. They. It's like Reb Nachman. He also writes this. He says, "Why do I not want you to learn all the philosophy? Because if you study all this philosophy, you'll lose your fear of God." He says, that's a competing theory, and I don't know how to deal with it. Chabad says, it depends on the person. There are people who can deal with it, and people who can't deal with it. Today, it doesn't matter if you think you can deal with it or you can't, because everybody's immersed in it. Like this is what everything tells you. There's no God, there's no reward and punishment. There's no cheshbon. There's no accounting. Everything is nature. So anyway, so that is Amalek. That's where Amalek comes in. That if you decide that you want to follow Hashem, then you can meet Amalek. But if not, you're in a child state. You're like, there's nothing there. It's a spirit of folly. It's like there's no awareness of God anyway. It's something completely different. But when you become Ba'al Dat, when you begin to have consciousness of God, then Amalek comes. And then Amalek wants to take over your ability to control yourself. And again, he says, this ability, you have it, but Amalek can come and chop it off. And not let you rule yourself the way you would like to. The way I'd like to is that I'd like to use my ability of my brain, my mind to control my heart. I'd like to use that all the time. And Amalek takes that away. So he says there are states of greatness and smallness in Zah itself, in this child now. I'm like a child who's now growing up, and I've decided that I want to serve Hashem because I've decided that this is I think it's better. I'm volunteering for it. So he says now there can also be states of small-mindedness. That what's happening there? That apparently at that moment Amalek is winning. And he's saying, even though you want to serve Hashem, I'm not going to let you run your life the way you want to. וזה סוד קוצה דסארי דאריך אנפין, כי הכוח הזה בדעת להיות שליט על המידות נמשך מאריך אנפין. So now he says, it's innate, this power that you have to control your heart, but it has a source, and the source we said is the small hairs, the edges, or the edge of the small hairs on the nape. הרצון שלמעלה מהחוכמה שממנו באה שליטה שיהיה על כורחו של המקבל. And this is where this strength comes from. ולשם עומד עמלק מישון ומלק את ראשו ממול אורפו. And that's where Amalek stands. And he cuts off your nape. יודע ומכוון למרוד נגד הדעת הנ"ל. That's what it means that he is rebelling against God. He knows his creator and he wants to rebel against him. Well, again, what are we talking about? What do we, maybe that was 4,000 years ago. What do I care about it now? He says, you have the same thing. That you know the Creator, you've decided to serve the Creator, and yet you don't have willpower over yourself. So where did that come from? That's Amalek attacking you. Why is it that everything else that I do, I have complete control over myself? I decide that I'm going to go run every morning half an hour. I can do it. Why is it that I can control my heart there? And I can't control when it comes to Hashem. Because that's where Amalek stands and chops off your neck. And that's his chutzpah, that's his brazenness against the power of dat, the dominion of holy dat. Similarly, Zeranpin now affects Nukva. Nukva is like the reality. It's what's outside of me. So the way I am is how I affect my surroundings. So each night, Nukva descends to Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, and then ascends in the morning to Atzilut. There she unites with Zeranpin, initially back to back, and subsequently face to face. So Nukva is like my emissary that goes out, the powers of my soul that go out to affect my surroundings. That's my nukva. And it's how I relate to my surroundings. So he says, my nukva, my ability to affect my surroundings, it takes from Zah. That's where it gets its mindset from. That's where it gets everything from. And every night, it goes down into Bia, and in the morning it returns. So we'll see more about what this is. Again, I don't know if there's a good explanation there. Again, these are all very general concepts, so we'll see more about them tomorrow.
I'm very self-conscious. It's an essence. Do you understand?
Yeah,
so it's stronger on me, but should I go home and daven another minute?
No, of course not.
No, seriously.
No, that's very...
I'm not going to matriach people?
I don't think so.
I'll wash my hands.